Well, hello everyone, welcome to this video. As you probably know, I'd like to do reviews on this channel, and there are a few games that came out this year that sorta got away from me, for various different reasons depending on the game. But there were a few that I didn't do videos for that I still wanted to say a few things about, and that is why I've gathered you all here today. And now mainly to get some background music going, let's get to number 6, Warhammer 40k Eternal Crusade. Now, just like most of the games on the list, this is one that I never actually got to play. Mainly because it was released with so little fanfare that I didn't even know it was out until recently. So having not actually played the game myself, the best description I can give for it is kinda like a big open world shooter, kinda like Arma, set in the Warhammer 40k universe. And this really appealed to me because while I may not be an ultra hardcore fanboy for the Warhammer 40k universe, I'm still a pretty big fan of it. And seeing not only this giant open world setting, but all the races at least featured and most of them even playable, it seems like more than any other Warhammer game has done in the past, even showing the Tyranids for a change, which are one of my favorite factions in the universe. I ended up not getting the game because I couldn't really fit it into my budget with all the other games coming out, which may have been a good thing because I heard the game didn't turn out so good in the end. With the chief complaints being some clunky melee mechanics, sort of an unfinished feel to the game with a lot of features missing, some pretty significant balance issues between not only the factions but different weapons within each faction as well, and a customization system that relies way too heavily on microtransactions. Now, having microtransactions for cosmetic items is totally understandable, but people make it sound like there are almost no customization options unless you pay real money. And pay a lot of money, I might add. Which is a huge shortcoming in a Warhammer game since customization is such a huge part of these kinds of games. Like with the original Warhammer tabletop games, you had to assemble and paint your models, and that sort of spirit has always carried over into Warhammer games with a really in-depth customization for your chapter or your characters. So getting that wrong in a Warhammer game is kind of a big deal. But from what I've seen, it seems like there's a lot of room for improvement, with the developers constantly rolling out updates for the game. So I would love to hear news that this game got better eventually, since it really seems like a concept for a game that I'd enjoy playing a lot. So by all means, please, if you know whether or not the game has gotten better by now, leave a comment down below. Number 5 on our list is Grand Theft Auto V. Now I know this game came out ages ago, but it's been fresh in my mind because of a new update they've done to the game. Now Grand Theft Auto V was a fantastic game when it came out, and throughout the game's life cycle, it's been made even better by every new update, which is totally free for everyone. The newest of which, for example, adding this really cool new game mode that's like a 3D Tron. So if you stopped playing GTA 5 after the Heists update, assuming they weren't really gonna do much more with it, as long as you haven't already gotten a refund somehow, I highly recommend you download it again and give it another go. Ever since the Heist update, they've been constantly releasing patches like the CEO update that lets you start your own criminal organization, the most recent Bikers update which lets you start your own motorcycle club, as well as all kinds of new crazy vehicles and weapons and gadgets, and cool extra things like personal yachts, just all kinds of new things that they keep adding to keep you logging in and keep you playing and have things for you to continue working towards. And I can't deny that in that regard it's definitely worked on me. Now you're totally forgiven if you thought the content updates for GTA were too few and far between, but as of late they've really been ramping it up in terms of content, with more than just new adversarial modes, vehicles, and weapons with each patch. The main reason I never did a video about GTA though is because all these new updates, as cool as they are, they were never really quite as big as the Heists update. So there was never really enough in each patch that I personally felt was worth talking about. But with the frequency and the quality of the recent updates, I definitely think it's worth picking up again. Next up is Gears of War 4. This is another one I didn't really have the time or money to get, and I ended up choosing other games over this because for one, I'm not really too interested in the Gears of War universe, 2, I think the versus mode multiplayer is absolutely atrocious, and 3, from what I've seen of most of the game, it seems just like a lot of more of the same, without really doing too much different or new from old Gears of War games. But one thing I gotta give Gears of War 4 props for is actually an emphasis on the word more. While it is pretty much the same formula as other Gears of War games, they actually add more onto the game instead of just reskinning things so that it looks a little bit different, which is something that some other games are guilty of. More weapons, more monsters to fight, more traps and gadgets for horde mode, more weapon skins and characters, and I think you get the idea, just more of everything to go around. And the biggest thing I have to applaud about Gears of War is their dedication to couch co-op. Not only does Gears of War have split-screen multiplayer for 2-player co-op, but it has split-screen multiplayer on the PC, which to my knowledge is the first AAA title to have split-screen multiplayer on the PC. So with support for split screen and couch co-op on the rapid decline these days, I'd recommend this game for that reason alone. If you like couch co-op, vote with your dollar, buy this game purely on principle, because this genre of multiplayer is dying out quickly. They made this game for you guys, so you should show them you're interested. Show the gaming industry there's still reason to support split screen. If I had done a review for this game, that fact would have earned hella points for the final score. So yeah, in summary, split screen fans rejoice and get Gears of War 4. For number 3, we have a game that if everyone did a list like this one, this game would be on a lot of people's lists. The main reason being because EA kinda sabotaged themselves with their release date for the game, kinda squishing it between Battlefield 1, their own title no less, and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. As a result, no one really had the time and money to play Titanfall 2. And the most tragic thing about this is that by all accounts, from everything I've heard about the game, it's actually really good. A multiplayer that for the most part expands on the previous system, even though they might have changed some things that didn't need to be changed. More content such as Titans and weapons customization and all that, but of course one of the most exciting additions to Titanfall 2 that everyone's talking about, well at least everyone who got the game, is an engaging single player campaign which was missing from Titanfall 1. While unfortunately it has the same drawbacks as Battlefield's campaign in that it's almost criminally short, it told an interesting and thought-provoking story touching on subjects like the relationship between humans and robots. It's a huge shame that this developer's first foray into a single player campaign is sabotaged by EA. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do for it right now because the main problem is that it just came out at a really bad time. And this game fell off of my list personally, just because I like slower paced shooters like Battlefield over these twitch shooters like Titanfall. But if you do prefer that kind of shooter, I would highly recommend you at least add Titanfall 2 to your list, even if you can't get it just now. Especially with this recent trend that developers are trying to cut campaigns out of their games. First they take away our couch co-op and now they're trying to take away our campaigns. And I'll be damned if I just sit quietly and let that happen. And you just know EA is gonna use this as an excuse to not do campaigns. They'll be like, oh, Titanfall 1 sold better without a campaign than Titanfall 2 did. And oh, campaigns are so much work to create, so we're just not gonna do it anymore. So please, if you like twitch shooters, buy Titanfall 2 if you can, or add it to your list if you can't. But just please don't let EA use this as an excuse to not include campaigns in future Titanfall games, because you know they will if this sells poorly.
Trust me.
Nearing the end of our list, we have Dishonored 2. Pretty much a first-person Assassin's Creed with more blood and magic. But I mean that in a good way, because the game looks fantastic. Everything about this game is right up my alley, but I ended up skipping it because I ran out of time and money for one. Wasn't a huge fan of the kinds of magic and gadgets you got for 2, although if I had the time and money to get it, that wouldn't have stopped me. And 3, because I never played the first game, which I didn't get for the same reasons. I guess both Dishonored games just came out at bad times for me. But the gameplay we've seen of Dishonored 2 looks really interesting and I would have loved to get it. But while the gameplay demos were clearly scripted, this isn't a developer like Ubisoft that is known to embellish their demos. We can be fairly confident that what we've seen from the gameplay is what we're gonna get. And with the game having just come out now, you can probably tell me how it is yourself. But like I said, all the powers didn't really appeal to me so much, so I guess I'm not going to be too upset that I had to miss out on this game. And I'm sure the game will be plenty successful even without my recommendation. They probably could have gotten me to scrounge together the money to buy it if they had some sort of multiplayer or co-op mode. But you know, I guess in case you haven't heard of Dishonored, you should probably check this one out. It looks great and I've heard nothing but great things about it. If I happen to win the lottery or some shit like that, I'll probably get this game and review it. But as it stands, I'm just not in a position to get it. And last on our list is Halo 5 Forge, which is not to be confused with just Forge mode in Halo 5, because that's been out for ages. Rather, Halo 5 Forge is a bundle that was released for Windows 10, and it basically just includes the fully featured Forge mode from Halo 5 as well as the ability to play custom games with your friends. Now this came out way back in September actually, but it came out with very little fanfare so no one really noticed it. And I only just discovered it recently, but I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since then. Now for me, the two biggest things I play Halo for are the story and the co-op, both of which unfortunately are not in this little Forge bundle. But the Forge mode is my third favorite part of Halo games, so it's been a lot of fun to just mess around with the Forge mode in this. But since there's no real matchmaking, if you don't have anybody to play it with, there's really not a whole lot to do, aside from faffing around in Forge or browsing some of the user-made maps that have some interesting little mini-games to them. Which is the main reason I decided not to really do a full-length video about this. But what it does do, and is what I can't stop thinking about, is how well it demonstrates Halo 5 playing on the PC. It's incredibly well optimized for the PC, and the mouse and keyboard controls feel so natural, perhaps even more so than a controller. It all just feels so natural that it makes me wish they were doing a full release of Halo 5 on the PC. It feels almost like a nod from 343 to PC Halo fans that they haven't forgotten about us. And what's even better about Halo 5 Forge is apparently there's some sort of crossplay involved between Xbox and PC, where you can share your Forge maps between the two, but I haven't really tested if that applies to custom games as well, which is kind of hard to for me because a lot of the friends I used to play Halo with on the Xbox don't really play it anymore. But in any case, it would be fantastic to see a full release on Windows 10 with crossplay between Xbox and PC. Now, I understand that it would be necessary to restrict the competitive modes with crossplay, but it would be awesome if we could at least play the co-op modes like Firefight and Campaign and custom games with friends, and it'd further encourage people to get it without alienating their friends on the other system. And since this is a Windows 10 exclusive, it's not like they're not selling consoles or operating systems in this case by releasing it for PC. Whether someone buys it on Xbox One or PC, Microsoft is still also selling the platform on which it's played. So because it's a Windows 10 exclusive, the whole argument that it's a console seller and it'll never come to PC is kinda invalid. Hell, with how poorly Windows 10 has been received lately, I'm sure it could use a console seller for lack of a better word as well. And they could have a game changer with Halo 5 on Windows 10 and Xbox with crossplay between the two. The only thing missing from Halo at this point is a server browser for people to play public custom matches. Give people the option to play Forge maps with more than just your friends. If they were to do this, I'm sure Halo 5 would have a resurgence with its dwindling player base. Forget about just how many people are still playing Halo 1 on the PC, but also all the PC gamers who may have never played a Halo game before. And with the core game already ported to PC, it would be an easy way to make a ton of money off of the franchise. And apart from that, while I don't think this will happen in Halo 5, I still think it'd be nice if maybe in a future Halo game we got the ability to add little AI characters to our Forge maps. Like give us the ability to make little custom campaigns, something along the lines of what we saw in Halo 1 for PC. Now granted, for Halo 1's PC port, the tools that allowed people to do that were mostly made by other users, but from what I've seen of Halo 5's Forge, I don't think it'd be much of a stretch to see this happen in Halo 6. They gotta build off the previous games somehow after all, and I think they can learn a lot in that regard by looking at what people did with Halo 1 on the PC. But really, I've only just started going on some rambly rant here, so point is, if you're like me, a Halo fan who plays on the PC rather than the Xbox, get on the Windows Store and download Halo 5 Forge right away. Even if you don't think you're gonna play it much, because chances are they're probably looking at how many people are downloading this and using that information to decide whether or not to fully release Halo 5 for the PC. So if Halo's gonna have any future on the PC, Halo 5 Forge needs to be successful. And that pretty much wraps up everything I wanted to talk about for this video, so I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I can still maintain some credibility on my opinions of these games even though I haven't played some of them. It's just been a pretty busy season for games in general, but in any case, I'll see you guys next time.